okay? I'll let you know
Okay.
when you're up for presentation.
Sure.
All right, folks, unless I tell you otherwise, you are live streaming. Have a great meeting.
Thank you,
Thank
Brandy.
you.
Okay, so I'd like to call the meeting of the Active Transportation Sustainability Advisory Committee to order. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that many of us are gathered on the territory of the Anishinaabe people, which include the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations, who are collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. And this land is also covered by the Williams Treaties of 1923. I like to remind myself as a settler living on this land, the stewardship that Indigenous peoples have provided on this land since time immemorial, and recognize the legacy and the ongoing impacts of colonialism on this land as well, and the responsibility that we all have to walk together in the journey towards truth and reconciliation together. Welcome, everyone. We have some guests here today, so I do want to do a round of introductions. So just introduce yourself, tell us who you are and why you're here, and then I can go through the list of people in the order that they appear on my screen, so we can just go through it quickly. So my name's Keenan. I'm the Ward 2 Councillor, the City of Barrie, and the Chair of the committee. Excited to hear from Nature Barrie today. I think we're gonna have a great meeting today, and I'll pass it off to Kelly, if you want to introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly. I am a citizen member of the Active Transportation Sustainability Committee. I also am a part of Pollinate Barrie, which is a new group that we've started. I'm very interested in active transportation and sustainability, and I'm happy to be here today. I'm going to pass it off to Eric.
Good morning. My name's Erica and Wiesenbeck, longtime resident of Barrie. Active transportation is a big part of my life, and I'm really happy to be on this committee to be able to help plan and make things happen for Barrie in the future. Looking forward to your presentation today. Thank you. I'll pass it off to Sherry.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sherry Diaz. I'm a public health nurse from the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, and a member of this committee representing the health unit. Also a former member of the Active Transportation Working Group, and happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. I'll pass it off to Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm the Climate Change and Health Project Associate, also at Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, and I will pass it on this time to John.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm John Northcote. I'm born and raised in Barrie. I've been a member of the committee and a volunteer member of the committee, and then was with the committee before this as well. So I've been on with it for a long time. I'm a transportation engineer by trade, and sorry about the background noise today. We've got the full family home with COVID protocol stuff today, so hopefully we won't be too noisy in the background here. And I'll pass it off to Laurel.
Hello, I'm Laurel. I'm a resident Barrie for about 5 years, I guess. I'm relatively new to this committee. I'm a citizen member, and by trade, I'm an environmental engineer. And I will pass it to Andy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andy Pellin with Living Green Barrie, and we are interested in all things sustainable, and in particular, we're focused on planting 10,000 trees in Barrie, and that's what we're gearing up for, is to plant a lot of trees in the next coming month or so. I'll pass it on to Kevin Rankin.
Morning, Kevin Rankin, the manager of Parks and Forestry Operations. So I usually sort of sit in the background here for these unless there's a committee agenda item, but I'll be here for any questions related to operations.
Thanks, Kevin. We'll go to the other Kevin Bradley, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Councillor Owen. Kevin Bradley, I'm the manager of Parks Planning, landscape architect by trade. I've been with the city for 22 years in about 4 weeks. We do everything related to strategic initiatives in parks, community outreach, partnerships, and design and construction. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. And we have met our wonderful representative from the clerk's office, Brandy Thompson, who keeps our meetings running smoothly. Thank you so much, Brandy. Thank you. And now we can pass it off to our two guests who are providing the presentation from Nature Barrie. So we have Phyllis and Dorothy to present today. So take it away. And if you'd like to provide a brief introduction of who you are and then jump right into your presentation. Go right ahead. Thanks for being here.
I'll let Phyllis introduce herself because actually as part of the presentation, I do tell you a bit about my background.
Okay, I'm Phyllis Tremblay, a longtime resident of the city of Barrie and a very long time member also of Nature Barrie. And I am here with Dorothy because we're very interested in keeping birds' lives for forever, and we want to increase everybody's recognition of the importance of birds in Barrie. Thank you, Dorothy.
Okay. Keenan, it's too bad I can't see you because I know I've met you several times in very different environmental capacities. And Andy, I know I've met you, and I'm sure I've met with the Kevins before as well. So Brandy, if you want to put up the first slide, the one with the cardinal on it, it's just an introduction of why we're here. We're here about certifying the city of Barrie as a bird-friendly city. If you want to go to the second page, it's an introduction to Phyllis and myself. So Phyllis's work, because we wanted you to know what our backgrounds are. So Phyllis is a retired registered nurse. She worked in various doctor's offices and at York County, oh, sorry, I got that. Did I get that right? York County Hospital. And then she was formerly in charge of food services at St. Joseph's High School. Her volunteer background in Nature Barrie, she's been in practically every position. She's a past president, Swiss Watch coordinator, conservation chair, social convener, and education. And her other volunteer work, she was formerly a Brownie leader at the unit, district, and division level. For myself, Dorothy McEwen, I retired just last October from Bell Canada, and I did finance across Canada for our across Canada customer network hardware maintenance. I know it's a mouthful, but I didn't know how else to describe it. My volunteer background in Nature Barrie, I'm a past president and past Bluebird Nest Box coordinator. Recently past Ontario Nature Board Huronia Regional Director. I've been on the board of the Huronia Symphony Orchestra. I'm a member of the Simcoe County Historic Association and past president of the Canadian Federation of University Women in North Toronto. And I'm an Ontario Eastern Bluebird Society member. So of course, I'll be telling you a lot about our Bluebird nest boxes. If you want to go to slide 3, Brandy, that shows our team members, because one of the requirements is having a Barrie bird-friendly team put together. Excuse me. And actually, one of the other requirements is that we have land acknowledgements, and both Nature Barrie and the City of Barrie, as Keenan said, we both do have land acknowledgements. So from Nature Barrie, we have Jim Coey, who's a retired school principal, and he's a retired Quest Nature Tour senior naturalist. He's heavily involved in the Ontario Field Ornithologist, and he's our Nature Barrie Outings coordinator. Gwen Petroman is a retired educator. She's a children's book author and illustrator, and she does our education displays. Darren McTavish works for that other telecommunications company, TELUS. He's a senior technology consultant, and he's our Nature Barrie vice president. And he and his university level daughter put this presentation together for us. So he will be on the call tonight, but yeah, it's Darren's work and his daughter's, Heather. From the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, we have Naomi Saunders, who does the education there, and Taryn Arsenal, who is a water biology expert. But on our team, she represents the Friends of Menacing Wetlands. Anne MacArthur is the important bird. The reason we have Matchedash Tiny Marl is one of the requirements is to have an important bird area, and Tiny Marsh is the nearest one, so that's why we have MTM involved. So Kate Harries is, she's the past president of MTM, but she's also heavily involved with Aware Simcoe. She's a member of Aware Simcoe. She has her own native nursery, and she's the current Ontario Nature Huronia Regional Director. We have Kristen Martin from Wild Birds Unlimited, which, if you know that store, it's they have bird-friendly products, and she's also a former field biologist with the MNR. From Barrie Hill Farms, we have Maurice Gervais, who's the owner-manager. He's on TV a lot. He was on TV last night. They have wonderful bird-friendly practices, farm practices there. And from the Simcoe County Environmental Youth Allowance, we have Lucy Duncan, who I believe did a presentation to City Council just a few weeks ago. So we're quite pleased to have them involved. Now, on the next page, I have just the logos of some of the other people who are our contacts. And I have to say, it's not the work we've done to get to the level of knowing that Barrie actually qualifies to be a bird-friendly city is because of the work of a lot of groups. The City of Barrie certainly, and we'll be going into this later, but all of these groups are involved in how we qualify. So we do have contacts in these, and actually, Andy, I see we have your living green because we were hoping you were supposed to. I mean, we use you as our contact for now, but you know, if you do have someone else that wants to be our contact on these, and actually, in a manner of speaking, we can take credit for Barrie being a bird friendly because of Living Green doing their tree planting. So yeah, so we have FLAP, the Barrie Garden Club, because they do native plantings a lot of the time. And of course, Nature Canada and the City of Barrie, the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, Georgian, Laurentian, and Lakehead, the Barrie Public Library, Birds Canada, the Rotary Club, the Barrie Native Friendship Center. So as you can see, it is quite a big group. It's not that Nature Barrie's done all the work. A lot of times we work in partner with the others. So on page 5 then, Nature Barrie, is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, yes,
yeah, okay. So I just wanted to give you a bit of background about Nature Barrie in case you don't know. It was founded in 1951, which is 71 years ago. It's even older than I am. And at that, as the Brereton Field Naturalist Club. It's a registered charity, and our aims are to acquire and share the knowledge of natural history, protect and preserve wildlife, and stimulate public interest in nature and its preservation. We do have monthly meetings on the third Friday of the month with guest speakers at Northwest Barrie United Church, but of course we haven't been there for 2 years. We've only done virtual meetings. We do have nature walk outings. Pre-pandemic, we had them because a lot of our members are older. We just didn't want to take the chance. I mean, I'm sure people have been out walking with their own families, but we haven't had our outings the last 2 years. But we're hoping to get started up again soon. And as you'll see, we do have some for World Migratory Bird Day. We have 20 to 50 members, including families and students. So we're not a huge group. And the public is invited on our outings and meetings. So we probably get, people come out that aren't members. We have many projects, as we will outline later in the information provided in this. So if you can go to the next page, Brandy, the Nature Canada certification aim. So Nature Canada has developed a certification standard to certify eligible cities as a bird-friendly city, to recognize and celebrate the contributions they have made to save bird lives in their municipalities. The goal is to provide local partners with a clear standard that reflects what a city needs to do to make it safe for birds. Certification is a badge of honor and a source of community pride. It tells the world that your city or town does things to help birds and reverse their declines in your own backyard. We're looking towards World Migratory Bird Day 2022 as a timeline to certify at least 30 eligible Canadian cities as a bird-friendly city. There is scoring for certification. The total points possible are 50. We're at entry level, which is, entry level if the mandatory, the rest of the mandatory elements are done. Entry level is 24, intermediate is 32, and high is 40 plus. And actually, of course, this is ongoing, so we could probably get up to an intermediate level at some point. Okay, so Brandy, slide number 7 is actually to play the Nature Canada Bird Friendly City video. If you could do that, please.
Is the link attached to the screen here?
I hope so.
To the slide, because I'm not seeing a link.
It's not on the next slide, is it? Oh.
No, it should be on that one that has the picture with naturecanada.ca/BFC. Actually, you know what? I don't know how many screens you can work on, Brandy. If you went to the Nature Canada website, you could get it that way. But if not, our presentation does have a lot of the information you would need. I think it just, has some nice, it's a video, so it has more of the background.
It's a nice animated version to exactly what we're doing or want to do and should do. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it to work on mine when I received the.
Brandy, I have the video open on a browser. Do you want me to share my screen and put it up?
Sure. Do you want me to drop mine down?
Sure. Yeah. If you stop sharing, then I'll be able to share. Perfect. Okay, I got to make sure I'm sharing the sound as well. Okay. Okay. Is it? Uh-oh. Are people seeing that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Birds in our cities need help. In the last 50 years, we've lost a quarter of the wild bird population, almost 3 billion birds across North America. Many of those deaths result from predation by cats and dogs, collisions with buildings and vehicles, pesticide use, and habitat loss, all things we can prevent or reduce. And many of the species facing decline are very familiar to backyard birders in towns and cities across Canada. The decline of these species is a huge red flag that something is wrong. We can and must do something to help them recover. Fortunately, cities and towns can do a lot to help birds survive and thrive. That's why Nature Canada is leading the way to help municipalities across the country to become certified bird-friendly cities. We believe that cities and towns across Canada can be safe places for birds where nature is restored, allowing populations to thrive, and where residents from all walks of life help and celebrate birds together. Nature Canada can help organize resources and develop policies that will help restore and protect bird populations in your communities. By joining the Bird Friendly City program, you can join dozens of other cities taking action to protect our feathered friends. Certification in the program will demonstrate to residents in your city or town how important birds are to the health and well-being of our communities and our planet. If you'd like more information on the Bird Friendly City program, please visit naturecanada.ca/BFC. We can provide a path for your town or city to become bird friendly and to know that you are doing things in your community that will help recover bird populations. To learn more about the certification process, watch this next video or visit naturecanada.ca/BFC. We look forward to working with you.
There is no next video, Keenan, so you can stop it there.
Okay.
Okay, so slide number.
I'm going to go back to the slide now.
Sure. So slide number 8 is just a heading slide, reasons for the City of Barrie to achieve bird-friendly certification. That is a picture of Sandhill Cranes, in case you were wondering, probably Strongville Road, because in the early spring, late winter, I guess it would be, Phyllis, you can get hundreds of them there. It's quite an interesting view and quite noisy too. You can hear them from a long ways away. I don't know how the people in the houses nearby could stand it sometimes. So page 9 then is the reason. My question would be, why not? It's free advertising on the Nature Canada website for the City of Barrie as a bird-friendly city. As you know, ecotourism is big these days, and bird watching has become increased quite a lot during the pandemic. And birders are quiet, clean, non-destructive. They will travel for great distances. I don't know if you saw in the news when, I can't remember, if glaucous-winged gull was here.
Yes.
Last fall, and people came from all over. And I know, surprisingly to me, people from Toronto come 3 times a week in the fall when the green shiners are heavy in the downtown, in the bay, and there's many different varieties of gulls. The certified cities in Ontario presently are London, Toronto, Burlington, and Hamilton. The pending certified cities are Guelph, Windsor, Peterborough, and Orillia. So do we want Orillia to get ahead of Barrie on this? I know it's been a long time competition between Barrie and Orillia, but so we thought we'd point that out, that Orillia is also pending certification. The City of Barrie already qualifies for at least entry level as long as the mandatory criteria are also met, which we will talk about later. And of course, any initiatives that help birds also help people. I'm sure Andy would need to know what trees and native plants do. Birds themselves are insect and disease control, and they help with crops because a lot of our bluebirds and tree swallows are out there eating the insects over top of the crops. And they do help pollinate. Why do we want to planting trees and native plants is part of the initiatives for the criteria. And of course, that brings us healthy ecosystems, combats climate change, cleans the air and the water, helps prevent extreme weather disasters like flooding, bank erosion, can save money and lives. It helps fishing and other recreation industries, helps with soil retention of crops, and also lowers irrigation needs because when there's shade, you don't need as much water. It saves money because trees are can be more efficient than man-made water filtration systems. They work for free and they're low maintenance. And trees and plants are a source of most of our medicines. A lot of the man-made medicines are just ones that imitate the natural ones. And this is something I've learned in some Indigenous studies I've done. And one point I realized is if we were talking to a First Nations community, this wouldn't even be a discussion. They're automatically land stewards and take care of the land and the creatures around them. What point did I want to make? Oh, yes, the tornado. I mean, I put down tornadoes as because the extreme weather conditions. I've always been a weather person, and possibly I'm interested in tornadoes because my name is Dorothy, the Wizard of Oz and all that. I noticed, the first thing I noticed when they showed pictures of where the tornado came last year is there were no trees, there were no trees higher than the houses. And from what I understand, tornadoes can follow temperature gradients, so they might have gone to a hot spot. I live in the old East End where we have a wonderful tree canopy, and touch wood, the tornadoes don't tend to go up here. So of course, they can't do studying of tornadoes you know, they don't know where they're going to go ahead of time to do temperature gradients ahead of time. But I do have a Bachelor of Science, and I'm always interested in anything scientific, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's one of the things they find. Okay, sorry, I've gone off topic. I think number 11 is just another heading page, why the city of Barrie qualifies for certification. And that's a chipping sparrow, isn't it, Phyllis?
Yes,
which
it is.
I've started to
The previous one, yes, that's correct.
Yes, which I would, yes, they're a migrating bird, aren't they? So I'm fine, because I'm seeing them at my bird feeders right now.
Yes, yes. But they'll nest here this year.
They will.
They will nest here.
They don't overwinter though, do they?
No, not
Okay.
overwinter. Not usually. There'd be one or two maybe on a Christmas bird count.
Okay. So page 11 then is the threat reduction part of the criteria for being a bird-friendly city. There are possibly 18 points, and entry-level score is 9. So yes, this is where the city has already done a lot of the things that they require for this. Control cats roaming at large, as they mentioned on the video. Cats are a big problem because cats are an invasive species because they come from Egypt. So the birds in our ecosystems are not built to withstand cats because they can climb trees and they will kill the parent birds and the chicks on the nest. So they're a big problem. Reduce disturbance of birds from pets, leash bylaws, chain link fences between residential and natural areas. And I have to say, Anne-Marie Kungle and probably Stephanie Weidman from Parks did a lot of work to put this part together for us, because I guess finding bylaws is difficult to do. So this is where we have to give a thumbs up, 2 thumbs up to Anne-Marie, because she did a lot of this work to find this out for us. Reduced window collisions, new urban design guidelines, including bird-friendly designs, anti-strike measures on new buildings. Reduced light pollution, an illumination study aspect in planning developed that includes compliance with dark sky policies. Reduced pesticide use. Barrie is a bee city due to their pesticide reduction policy. Reduced plastic waste. We have the single-use plastics ban. And they have rethink waste on the City of Barrie educational page. These all count towards us being a bird-friendly city. Reduce vehicle collisions by reducing vehicles near important bird habitat areas. So we have public transit going to the waterfront. We have increased active transport routes, including biking lanes and walking trails on the waterfront. The only way we could get higher if we monitor and monitor how many loose cats there are out there and how many window collisions happen, which involves creating your own database, but we don't have the manpower to do that. So I don't imagine that that is going to happen, that we would ever be high in the threat reduction, unless we get a lot of other groups involved. And anyway, okay, so the next page, habitat protection, restoration, and climate resiliency. Protect the natural areas. Are there plans to increase them separate from recreational areas? Removal of invasive species. I know I was involved in a couple of projects pre-pandemic where we did invasive Phragmites removal, and that was a combined effort by RVH, the NVCA, the Nature Barrie Frag Busters, Georgian College, and the City of Barrie. And that happened at RVH, Georgian College, and the east end of the North Shore Trail. City climate change adaptation strategy and implementation plans, the naturalization in parks and natural areas, increase the urban tree canopy, plant native flora on municipal lands. There's the boulevard gardens, the communities in bloom, and I think there was something called the Menacing Park. Phyllis, something like that.
Yes, there is at the native, or at the what's this called? I can't even remember what it's called now. But they did and
a bird just almost flew into my window.
They did Three Sisters Garden along the shore, or not along the shore, the North Simcoe Rail Trail.
No, I was thinking of, there was a project, I think, called Muskoka Gardens or something that was for people planting native species in their own yards. Anyway. Okay, number 13, Brandy. Habitat protection, restoration, and climate resiliency. This is the third area of criteria. And I minimalized this a lot because I guess if you can't, yeah, one of the slides we have is the rubric because there are 50 different criteria and it would take us 2 hours to go through them all, and especially what has been done in the area. So this is a really summarized summary of the criteria and what has been done or needs to be done. But so yeah, it looks very small here, but there are many more criteria. Oh, sorry, in habitat, I should have mentioned. Did I mention in habitat? Oh, sorry, this is the second page of habitat protection. Sorry. Okay. Improved breeding or stopover habitat. The city of Barrie has their Adopt a Park or Trail program. The Rotary Islands promote fish habitat and are a protected area for shallow water for the dabbling ducks, which would be like the mallards. Gables Park is a designated natural urban park, and improvement to the Kempenfelt Bay shoreline to prevent erosion. This was done by the city of Barrie and Nature Barrie. The menacing wetlands by the NVCA, as I said, I didn't put, it would take many pages to tell you everything that the NVCA does in the menacing wetlands for protection and restoration. And Tiny Marsh is an important bird area, and that's handled by the MTM and Ducks Unlimited. MTM story stands for Marl Tiny Matchadash. So there's 17 points possible under habitat protection. Entry level is 8 points. And to get the higher level, you have to promote biodiversity and monitor all the results, which I don't think we'd ever have the manpower to do, but something to aspire to in the future, unless we get the Simcoe County Environmental Youth Alliance maybe to get involved with that. Okay, so page 15 actually has a picture of Phyllis up there standing by the Unity Christian High School chimney, and she's putting a data logger, or sorry, a temperature data logger in, and the picture on the right is the Queen's Hotel.
This is one of our major roosts. This is a major roost in the city of Barrie. This is before it was shortened. This photo was taken years ago.
Queen's Hotel. Oh, and you can see two chimney swifts, one flying and one diving down in. And something that would be an interesting contest for people is chimney swifts dive down, and then at the last second, they turn around so that they are going tail first down into the chimney. No one has ever been able to catch that on video. They are so fast. If you were working downtown, because I used to, when I worked at Bayfield in Wellington, I could hear them in the morning, and you'd hear them doing their as they're hunting mosquitoes way up in the sky. And they work from dawn to dusk for free. They eat thousands of mosquitoes, thousands of insects a day. So chimney swifts are threatened in Ontario. They're an endangered species in other provinces like Nova Scotia. Threatened is defined as will become endangered if steps are not taken to address factors threatening it. The reason swifts use chimneys is because hollow trees are no longer available in most areas because everybody cuts them down. Chimneys were used for roosting or nesting and are protected by law. The federal law that protects them is the Government of Canada's Migratory Birds Convention Act, and by provincial laws, the Endangered Species Act. I guess, okay, so when, actually, Phyllis, you want to talk about the data logger and what you found?
I'm not sure if we've got the time for that, but the first year that the data logger was installed, the heat apparently hadn't been turned off, and so the temperature in the chimney was too high for swifts to survive there in a nest, and there were a few dead swifts that we found in the clean out when we checked, and that was the reason for it. And then Chris, the person on the left, is an engineer, and when we got the information on the second year of the data logger being installed, they had turned off the heat, and the temperature inside the chimney was correct within definite areas to keep them warm enough and not too hot, and they survived that year. And so they tried to find out what had happened, and it was and they changed all their heating system, and now the chimney is not used at all for heating, and it was because they kept on the heat sometimes if they forgot to turn it off, and they didn't turn it off on time. So they actually helped us. We helped them to discover their problems and to save them money, the school that is, and they helped us and the birds by saving their lives and allowing chimney swifts to nest in and roost in that chimney. So it's a good news story.
Mm-hmm. For both sides, yeah. Okay, we can go to number 16, Brandy, which has the same pictures but different information. So we just wanted to show that the spring arrival date is late April and the departure date is early September. There are 25 chimneys, and these would be the big brick chimneys in downtown Barrie. Unity Christian, I guess, would be considered South Barrie, sort of near Allendale. 25 chimneys continue to be occupied by swifts. 81 counts at 5 large roosting chimneys. So the main ones are the Queen's Hotel downtown, Donnelly's, Barrie Central Collegiate, Unity Christian High School, and the jail. So take note that the jail, they're talking about developing that. They have to save the chimney. Because it's, and if you want, I've got these stats here just to show you the numbers that roost at night. It is quite amazing. I mean, we do have Swift Watch in the, I thought we had the dates down. I guess we didn't put it in.
The dates are there.
The dates are there from last year. So they'd be pretty close this year to those dates. But similar. If you can see, it is quite interesting to see them diving down into these. If you enjoy the snowbirds, chimney swifts are quite impressive to watch because they dive down into these small chimneys, several at a time, without hurting each other. So if you'll see the Queen, the Barrie Central Collegiate chimney used to be the big one, where we would get like 100 a night. And so where it had the construction around it, so last year, the Queen's was the big chimney. You can see like May 26th, there were 150 in the Queen's chimney. So they're smart enough to move around if they don't like what's happening where in their preferred place. So the next page, number 17, is just to show you the Barrie Central Collegiate chimney in case you were downtown and were wondering why this thing was separated. It was one of our big roosting chimneys. And one thing we need from the city is to get updated on the move and the reconstruction. I believe it's going to Sunnydale. Kevin, would you know that? Anyway.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we've been working on the plans. We've extended the agreement with the developer for another year till December of next year, but the requirements are still in place. We have identified 3 potential locations in Sunnydale Park. We still would need to do some archaeological investigation on site. But on that, but the project is still in the works.
Okay.
And excuse me, is that the end of
work.
2023 or that extension?
The extension, it's annually renewed. It's tied obviously to the development approvals and the timing of their construction, which will precipitate when we need to do the work within Sunnydale Park.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so page 18 is the next section, the last section, community outreach and education. I'll talk, so in this, there's 15 points possible, entry level is 7. What we do lack is Georgian College doesn't really have a bird-friendly student education of their students, and we don't have as much signage in the waterfront as we'd like because it is an important bird habitat. So on the right, as you can see, birding is included on the Tourism Barrie website, and these areas are listed on eBird as birding hotspots. So the marine, oh, that should be Marina, City of Barrie Marina, Allendale Station Park, Minette Point, Centennial Park, Dock Road, Tyndale Park, Wilkins Beach, Lackey's Bush, Little Lake Park, Spirit Catcher, North Shore Trail. So yes, it's important to educate the public on native plants and animals with either city signage or the QR code signage. Nature Barrie sponsors students for the Ontario Nature Youth Summit, which tells them how to be citizen scientists and community activists and includes Indigenous perspectives on conservation. We have outings and speakers, the Christmas bird count and the Christmas bird count for kids. And we also have educational displays at a lot of the city events and festivals. And the picture on the right is actually showing people one of our Bluebird boxes at Barrie Hill Farm. Again, I just have listed NVCA and MTM because they do so much. It would take us 20 minutes to talk about all the things they do for community outreach and education. And Naomi Saunders, one of our members, is excellent at it, and that's pretty much her job. So Georgian College and Lakehead University have birding workshops, and there is a master naturalist course at Lakehead University. And do I have these out of order?
Next slide.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know where.
We're up to the what does the city of Barrie need? We're up to what does the city of Barrie need to do to finalize certification on the presentation? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, I had a picture of the Bluebird box. Oh dear. Oh, okay. We skipped one. Okay, we skipped past 14, I guess. My Bluebird. Can you go back to 14, Brandy? Sorry. I skipped over my Bluebirds.
There, it's there.
It's up.
Okay. Okay, so the eastern bluebird is not significantly threatened, and its populations have increased substantially in past decades, in part due to our successful nest box program. We have I guess we started off with about 20 nest boxes in the 1980s, but we weren't recording then, and that's why I have figures here for you for 2010 and 2021. Our boxes are near the farm crops with their backs to the prevailing winds and small holes so that the predators like cats, squirrels, and raccoons can't get in. They're on greased poles so the predators can't climb the poles. So we have them at Barrie Hill Farms near the Tango Creek Golf Course, Oral Ski Trails Road, and Old Second Line. And of course, you're welcome to come see them with us sometime. I'd be happy to give you a tour of them. Right now, they're just in the nesting stage, so there's maybe a few nests. There should be eggs by the middle of May, and there's usually chicks by the May 2-4 weekend. So tree swallows are an area forager, so you will see them swooping over the crops, and they eat mainly mosquitoes. So we can always tell it's a bad tree swallow season if it's a rainy, cold spring because the mosquitoes aren't out, or they will wait to nest until the cold weather's gone. they're in the area of least concern. In 1966 to 2014, the population went down 49%, probably due to nesting habitat loss and insect prey loss due to insecticides. They love our nest boxes. They're our most prolific nester. Now, the reason I have these stats for you is to show you, like 2010, because we just started recording. But if you look at 2021, there's 78 eggs, but only 54 chicks. So you get some idea. As well protected as these nest boxes are, they have a lot going against them. And the tree swallows in 2021, there were 201 eggs, but only 171 chicks lived to leave. Sorry, fledging means they live to leave the nest. So that's, I just thought you'd be interested in seeing those statistics. Okay, sorry, we can go back to 18. Okay, so 19 then is, what does the City of Barrie need to do to finalize certification? It actually is not very much at all. I think most of the work has been done. So page 20 shows you the proclamation that I wrote up and has already gone to Lauren Wild. And it's set for May 9th to be proclaimed by Barrie Ward Deputy Mayor. The events have already been posted on Nature Barrie and Nature Canada websites. And just an interesting note I thought you might want to know is that the spirit catcher, our icon of the waterfront, created by Ron Baird of Beaverton, represents the thunderbird, which is a mythical creature in many Canadian and Indigenous cultures. And in the Algonquian Ojibwe culture, the thunderbird is considered to return from the 4 directions with the migratory birds. So I thought that was an interesting point in our City of Barrie. So the world, I don't know if you want me, do we have time? Do you want me to read this or just leave?
Dorothy, I think we want to make sure we have some time for questions from the committee.
Okay.
So if maybe we can move on to.
Do people get a copy of our presentation?
Yeah, we can make sure it's distributed for sure.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you can read it there.
Yeah.
I was quite proud of it, Keenan, but it's okay. You can read it.
No, it's great. Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely have a chance to read it. Absolutely.
I put a lot of work into that proclamation, but all right. We can pass it. Okay, so page 21, what else is required? Oh, sorry. Oh, yes. What else is required by the City of Barrie? We need a council resolution supporting our municipality's efforts to be a bird-friendly city within the first year of certification. So the city has a year to do that, but of course, we want the present council to do it where we know you will, right, Keenan? Or a letter of support from the acting mayor. Anne-Marie Kungo has already drafted a resolution, I believe. She didn't get it to me by today, but she might have it for us tonight at the Buildings Committee. And to include information about bird-friendly city on the City of Barrie website. So I don't know, I guess that has to be discussed. Okay, page 20 is how can the city help going forward? And that's an American goldfinch, which nests here, which stays here over the winter. But of course, the males are this bright yellow now because it's breeding season. Okay, page 23. I guess the big thing is think green in your choices. Plant trees, plant native plants. The city website, it'd be good to have the birding hotspot, bird-friendly information, education material regarding threats to birds, from cats, light pollution, fireworks, window collisions, and the Goose Patrol, and the importance of Kempenfelt Bay for bird migration and tourism. The Goose Patrol was actually brought up by a member of the city staff who was on our Nature Barrie board, who says they get complaints all the time about the geese being down on the waterfront, but you know, they're and of course they can't do anything well when the birds are breeding because the parents can't leave the young. Okay, reduce light pollution, retrofitting standard street lights with downward facing street lighting, implementing bird friendly standards for windows in new construction. This actually may not need to be done by the city because there's a private member's bill to amend the Ontario Building Code. So that would override anything the city, so that may not need to be done by the city if it's an Ontario-wide building code. Assist with citywide public engagement of choosing a city bird. And yes, keep up the good work, because as I said, we already do have a lot of the criteria for being a bird-friendly city. We just have to keep on with it. So the page 24 was supposed to be the rubric, so you can see, you know, the things we skipped over because it's quite a huge document. In fact, I tried to send it to some people and their volumes didn't allow. So page 24 is a big thank you to the City of Barrie, past and present, the mayors, councillors, committee members like yourself, and the city staff for supporting our efforts, and all the groups mentioned in this presentation to keep Barrie bird friendly in the past and then in the future, which also helps Barrie healthy and a naturally wonderful place to call home. Are there questions?
That's great. Thank you, Dorothy. All right, we'll go to questions from members of the committee. Just raise your hand if you have any questions for Dorothy and Phyllis about the bird-friendly designation and certification process. And a reminder that City Building Committee tonight is going to be receiving a presentation on this as well, and there might be some more discussion with city staff and councillors on that. Any questions? Not seeing any hands at this point. Very great presentation. Awesome information. It's good to hear that things are on track, and I'm feeling hopeful that council will support a resolution to make this a reality. I'll give one last chance here for any questions or comments. All right. That's great. Thank you so much, Dorothy and Phyllis. Seems like you covered it all. So thanks again for your work and advocacy on this. And you're welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting if you like, but we won't be offended if you have to leave as well. That's fine with us.
Thank you.
Sure,
Thank
I might listen in for a while.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. And
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thank you very much for all because it's your committee this committee that has done a lot of the background work for this too, like in the previous years to that the reasons we qualify are for other people's work.
That's it's great to see different groups working together, and don't be afraid to reach out to this committee in the future as a resource to move some of this work forward.
Certainly, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So we'll move on to our discussion items on the agenda. So the first item is supporting the next term of Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee. So we're coming up to the end of our term, and we could have a whole new committee next term. And so it's always a good idea to sort of maybe leave some advice and ideas and direction for the next term of the committee. I don't know if there's any burning ideas that people have for how we should be doing this transition. I had a couple thoughts around, sort of the big picture items around the greenhouse gas reduction strategy and the Cycle Barrie infrastructure program. I think those are kind of the two big ones on each side of sustainability and active transportation. And that's a good starting point for the committee next term. But if there's any sort of discussion or ideas on how we want to proceed with the transition, do we want to sort of just set agenda items for the first meeting of the next term as suggested agenda items, or maybe a transition document of some sort that talks about priorities that we think they should focus on? I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that. Feel free to speak up. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Keenan. It's really important to have a bit of a plan in place, and passing off to the next committee. I think we need a transitional report of the items that have been brought to council. I think Brandy did a great job with that Excel sheet, because when we do make these recommendations, we want to kind of track them and to see if they're actually getting done and getting followed through. So perhaps a transitional document that includes action items that have been proposed to council and where they sit. And again, kind of breaking it down, as you said, between the active transportation piece and the sustainability piece. And I would really recommend having a kind of a working agenda, whether it's having folks like we do now submit things, but it tends to be just a few people that, bring things to the table. So I'm not sure how we can encourage or engage that more, perhaps having a theme, on, 1 month you talk about specifically active transportation ideas and the next is sustainability, something like that. So I think just having a document in hand for the committee to look at and review what we've discussed, what we've talked about, what we've suggested, and that would just give them a big hand up for their next round.
Great thoughts. Making some notes there. Sherry, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I also agree that an agenda, carrying an agenda forward would be great, as well as the transitional document. Great ideas. The other thing I might suggest is that it would be helpful to have one central location where we can access committee documents. I've found that to be a little bit of a deficit going forward, especially if there are meetings that you weren't present for as a member, to be able to go back and kind of look not just at the minutes, but at key documents or things that were shared, or just one central location where we can sort of find things. Or likewise, if we're working on something collaboratively, where we have one location where we can access working documents, for example. And I think that this is a relatively new concept for advisory committees. I had a little bit of conversation with Brandy about this when I was looking for the feedback on the bike-friendly certification recommendations, and trying to dig that up. So just a thought and a suggestion there.
That's a great point, Sherry. And yeah, like you said, it's not really something that I've heard advisory committees have done, but it would be a very helpful tool. It's just how do we manage that? And I don't know if the clerk's office has any ideas for a good way of doing that, or if there are any committees that are doing that type of thing to keep consistency in where we store those documents. I do see Eric's hand just went up. Go ahead. We see you're unmuted, but we can't hear you speaking yet, Eric. Not hearing you. We can wait and see if Eric can get that sorted out.
Hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can. There we go.
Microphone issues here. Still there? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, darn wires. I'm just wondering if we can leverage or should leverage the fact that although we don't have any control or prediction over most of the committee members, because they're all nominated by the next elected council, including the councillor members, because that depends on elections. But we do have a few members who are here representing organizations that we assume the organizations will still be part of the committee membership, and then they'll probably still have the same representatives carry on. So we do know 2 or 3 of our who our future members likely will be, and I wonder if there's some way to leverage that knowledge, maybe by making sure that any transition plans are include them, sort of maybe to supervise them.
That's a really good point. Oh, sorry. I just got an error notification on my Zoom, but I think it's fine. That's a really important point that we do have some continuity with the organizational members, Living Green, the health unit. What for our organizational members, do you have any thoughts on that, Andy or Sherry, on what that could look like? Andy?
The only thing that I'm trying to get my head around is this is a committee of council. And so, you know, Living Green's taking obviously a background to that, but, you know, obviously we have our Google Drive with sharing documents. If it makes sense for us to parent some of these things, then absolutely we have the capacity to do it. But again, being a committee of council, I wasn't sure if that would be even appropriate.
That's a fair point. And maybe that's where we can ask Brandy to do some digging in the clerk's office to see if there are any tools available to us as advisory committees for that document sharing. Like, is there a feature on Legistar where we post the agendas and minutes where we could have these documents published?
Not that I'm aware of, but I will definitely check into that.
Okay, that would be helpful. Sherry, I see your hand went up as well.
Yes, Keenan, thank you. Just to answer your question, if I am to be representing the health unit again going forward in a new term, that would be wonderful. And I'm quite happy to provide some historical context and, you know, provide some orientation or what is needed for any new members. I think that would be a natural progression for those of us that are able to continue. I think that's another avenue. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thank you. And I do know it does really depend on, you know, what the new council looks like and who applies. But I do know with this term of council, there was a concerted effort made to appoint people to committees, a good mix of fresh faces and people who have that institutional knowledge. So I'm hoping that that tradition sort of continues. It likely will, but and I think our transition documents will just help with that continuity. Another thing I just thought of was perhaps we should suggest to the new term of this committee that they pursue a formal budget for educational and outreach activities specifically. That seems to be an area where we could use some support, and there is precedence that some other committees have budgets, although small, but it can get a lot done with a small budget sometimes. So perhaps that's something we can include as well. So I've been making notes of everyone's comments, and I can start throwing together a bit of a transition document to share at our next meeting, if that works for everyone. And we can include that work that Brandy has done to look at resolutions we passed and where they sit. Andy?
Just a suggestion. I know that we're not out of COVID yet, and so we're still on a very Zoom-like world, but there's a possibility maybe this summer we could take one of these meetings before it wraps up and new people are appointed, and we have an outdoor meeting possibly at Sunnydale Park or something like that, and then we could be doing that transition in a little bit, you know, see people in more than 2 dimensions.
That's a very cool idea. I love that. And we'll have to work with the clerk's office to see what's possible in terms of open meetings and all of those rules and stuff. But I don't see why try that. Kelly, I saw your hand next, and then John.
Yeah, just a thought on the actual committee mandate that is posted. Perhaps that needs a bit of a review. You know, I really feel that we have a missing link with our education piece, and I'm wondering if it is, you know, is it that part of our role as an active transportation and sustainability committee, similar to what we're doing with our subcommittee for Bike the Night, you know, around education and participation. So I don't know if the mandate of the committee itself, perhaps it could use a little tweaking or a review. I'm not sure when the last time it was handled, but perhaps that's an idea that council may want to look at that and say, well, you know, because we're going to give you a budget and, you know, this is part of the mandate. Just a thought.
That's a great thought. And I know at the beginning of this term, that was the first thing, because it was a new committee this term, that was the first thing on our first agenda. We reviewed the mandate of the past working group and then the past environmental advisory committee and sort of smushed them together. And then I think we reviewed it once during the term as well and made some changes partway through the term. So that's something we could have as like a suggested first agenda item for that committee, is review the terms of reference and maybe hear some suggestions. So I'll take a look at that. Yeah, because the mandate might shift a little bit over time. Okay, perfect. John, go ahead.
Great, thanks. Yeah, and I think I certainly support all the comments I've made so far about transition documents. As part of that, I was thinking that it might be good for us to maybe brainstorm ideas of how to bring in new members. I think it's great. We've got a great team of people, and I think the more people we can bring in, the better. And maybe as part of that, we can look at, if people have ideas, I'll certainly think about it myself, ways to reach out to the community to make sure we've got the biggest team we can possibly have working from this. So maybe as part of that, we can add that to the list of things.
That's a great point. And maybe we can get some information from the clerk's office on the timelines. I'm not sure how soon after the municipal election the vacancies for committees get posted, but perhaps if we have some advanced notice, we can help reach out to our networks and share that link to the application. So we'll make sure we have some information from the clerk's office on that. Okay. Any other thoughts on transition documents, our mandate, anything related to the next term? John and then Andy.
Sure. Yeah. When's our last meeting then? Or would it be October? Did anyone know?
That's a good question. Brandy, do you know that answer?
I am just taking a look at that now.
Yeah, because the election's
Because
October.
I know the term for the committee, isn't it up November 14? So that would bring you to November 1st.
Okay, so we will have
October 4th or November 1st.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. We have a decent amount of meetings into the fall. Okay.
Yeah, so it looks like I have a total of, if November 1st is in fact a committee meeting date, I have 4 meetings left.
Okay. Andy, sorry, you had your hand up, right?
I was just going to make a further suggestion is, this is such a broad committee and there's so many things that we could be hitting. And I see that, we have this kind of structure right now where there's, I don't want to call them pet projects, that diminishes it a little bit. It's not meant that, but we have bike the night, we have pollination, we have tree planting, we have commenting on road right of ways and how large streets should be, and active cycling, and of course the greenhouse gas emissions strategy, which really should be, in my opinion, one of the bigger kind of portfolio items that we should be tackling. I'm almost wondering if we are going to have a greater discussion, maybe this is an agenda item for the next meeting, is to talk about if we were setting some terms or some guidance documents, could we do it more like a teams kind of approach where every committee member is on at least one sort of subcommittee? I hate to use those words, but that idea where you can reconvene, because we've sort of done that with Bike the Night. There's a whole group that's sort of meeting meeting separate to that to talk about that. And then ideally this format is coming back with one person sort of reporting, this is what our little smaller group was able to accomplish with it, because there is so many different things that we could be doing. And, you know, we've really not hit any of the circular economy stuff. We're barely hitting a lot of things because depending on, so it's just that suggestion of smaller teams of people that can come back and do reporting on how they've progressed.
That's a really important point. The broad mandate of active transportation sustainability is a blessing and a curse, that's for sure. So that could be a good point for us to include in the transition document around the terms of reference and making it more formal in terms of here's some suggested subcommittees. Maybe we can do some thinking about, maybe we have an outreach and education subcommittee, and then that subcommittee can work on things like Bike the Night. Then we have a climate action subcommittee that monitors the work of the greenhouse gas reduction plan. Then we have an active transportation infrastructure subcommittee or something like that. So maybe let's do some thinking about that. And if you have any suggestions for subcommittees, send them my way, and then we can put that in the suggested terms of reference for the next term. Does that work for everyone? Yeah.
I think so. And I think the other key point to this is, if we are talking about this as being a transition document, if we realize that we have everyone that on this committee is, all cyclists, and no one's on for this next group that is into the birds and the plants, for example. Like, I think it will help with also figuring out who should be in some key roles if these are the kind of goals that this committee wants to put forward.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps we should think about forwarding our transition document to the new council, whoever that may be, for when they're making those decisions about appointments, that, here's what the last committee thought worked well, and maybe the type of expertise and knowledge that we'd like to see on the committee, just as a suggestion. It's ultimately up to the new council, but it doesn't hurt to give them a bit of a nudge. Okay, any other thoughts on a transition? Not seeing any at the moment. So I'm going to compile these notes into a transition document of sorts, and then I'll circulate that to the committee ahead of the next meeting. Okay, I'm sorry, just making a note for myself there. One last chance if there's anything anyone wanted to say before we move on to the next item. Not seeing anything. Awesome. Okay, so we have 2 items on the transition there, so I think we're good to go to Bike the Night update. And there's some good news out of City Council last night where the funding was given approval. And I do want to take a second in case you saw news stories out of the discussion that happened at General Committee. I want to apologize to the members of the Bike the Night working group for the event kind of being overshadowed by the discussion that happened. And it wasn't the smoothest launch of the idea that we could have hoped for. And I'm just hoping that we can, that council will be on board and promoting it going forward. But good news is that the funding was approved last night, and I want to thank all of you again for your efforts on that. It's very much appreciated. So I don't know if Kelly, John, or if you wanted to take it away, if there was a bit of an update that you wanted to share or anything you need from the committee at this point.
Sure. John, do you want me to go or you go?
You go ahead. I was going to say, Laurel, too, one of you two, you have done the most work on it. So yeah, by all means, go ahead.
Well, I'll rely on Laurel too. So. Okay. Yeah, so it's funny with our meetings, our next Bike the Night meeting is this Thursday. So it's like we always have these kind of reverse updates. So yes, I appreciate we all appreciate the confirmation of your particular budget item, Keenan, and thank you. I appreciate your thoughtfulness around how that went last week. And yeah, it was in the end, everything worked out. And I think we may have gotten $1,000 from Sergio. I don't know. It seems maybe we did. So good, we're up to 3,000. That's nice. So I'm just going to give an update from my end. I'll get Laurel and John to update whatever they have, but we do have our meeting this week to kind of solidify, and Sherry as well, who has put together a really great plan. So I actually went and did the application for the event on the city site. That's quite an interesting process. So, as I know Andy's laughing. Thanks, Andy. I did it. So, yeah. So it turns out that not that it's a bit convoluted, but it will be a city committee event with Living Green Barrie. So but the good news is it's sponsored through the city, and we'll get insurance coverage through the city of Barrie, which is great. We won't have to pay for the permit for the event, which is another good news. There are some pieces that we'll discuss at Bike the Night committee that are we need to do, which we'll have a review of. And but all in all, it's really moving along and going really great. Laurel, I'll just get you to give a little update on what you've done as well, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, yeah. So we prepared some messaging. Sherry helped to fine tune some things in the messaging, which sometimes you write stuff and you don't really think about the implications. So that was very helpful. And then we prepared some advertisements, I guess we'll call it. And we're having Living Green Barrie help us to promote the event through their Facebook and social media channels. So we have a couple different posters of varying levels of information. I think I successfully made a QR code that people could scan. So I think, yeah, I don't know. Andy, did you want to add anything?
No, I think the big thing is, I don't know if we've discussed exactly. So we have now some great money coming in through Keenan and possibly Sergio, but Councillor Morales, Councillor Elwins, and maybe Councillor McCann might be coming in some money. I don't think we've discussed what we need the money for. So I think that's something they should be high on the agenda and maybe talk about that for next time. It's like we're getting all this money for something, we should figure out what that is. And again, from my end, we got the Facebook post, and now it has a home, and we can start figuring out what we want to do as the next steps going forward.
Yeah, I was just going to add, if you haven't joined the Facebook group, you can find it. It's an event hosted by Living Green Barrie, and it's called Bike the Night at Meridian Place.
Sherry, I see your hand up there. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Great work by the subcommittee for sure. In response to the comment about what we're going to spend the money on, I think that's a really good point. And I have developed a very simple project charter that includes all the key sort of activities and resources that may be needed, which can include what the costs are associated with that. So I did send that to Anne Marie Kungle for her to have a quick look at before it goes to the subgroup. But it's very simple, so it's not too cumbersome, but I think it'll provide some guidance. And it includes some background information about the rationale for it, some of the key goals, what are the tasks associated in timelines and resources. So it'll just be a bit of a tracking document that will keep the sort of the plans, comprehensive and thoughtful, and provide some context in terms of, the outcomes that we're looking for, and some ideas maybe for next year and that sort of thing. So it is just a simple Word document. So I will, if Anne Marie doesn't have the chance to forward that to the group, I will be doing that so that you have it for the next meeting. And unfortunately, I'm unable to attend, but I hope that you can have some good discussion around it. And I did insert a bunch of comments in terms of some questions I have around the charter that hopefully the committee can answer. Okay, so that's coming.
That's amazing. Thank you, Sherry. Anything else from the working group? Anything you guys need? John, go ahead.
Great. Yeah, so I don't want to take any of the credit for all the work that's been done. It's been great. But just, I guess, if anyone is encouraging people to look at the Facebook page, if they can click on going would be a big key, because I know the Guelph team said that understanding how many people are going to be there is a big part of challenge is going to be for the meeting for the event, and encouraging other people to come. So I just wanted to highlight that one part, but looking forward to the meeting this week.
It's awesome. Thank you. Any questions from committee members that aren't involved in the organizing directly? Any ideas, questions, concerns? Oh, good. Okay. We're looking good. Okay, so there wasn't if we're all right to move on, there wasn't an update for the Crompton Park item for this month. And the next item is around Strava. And I think this came from a discussion on how we can leverage this tool and maybe have some information on the active transportation section of the city's website, if I'm remembering correctly. And Eric, I don't know if you had any thoughts on this. I know you're a big Strava user, or John, on what that could look like, or how we wanted to direct this discussion.
Yeah, I quite honestly haven't thought a whole lot about it, but certainly the capability is there to set up groups and clubs, and as a way of encouraging people in Barrie who may be users on Strava already, we could set up a club for active transportation, to promote active transportation. And we can do posts. We can't do any promotion on Strava, like, paid boosts or anything like that. As far as I'm aware, I can look into that a little bit, but I don't think that's possible. So it's relatively easy to set up a club. To try and spread the word is maybe a little more difficult. We'd have to go off of the platform and spread the word on the city website, on our Facebook page, those types of platforms where there's more people networked. I don't know, any further thoughts, John? Maybe we should have a chat about it. I don't know.
So yeah, no, I think that's great. Yeah, my original half-baked idea was that it could be an encouragement, not so much of I guess some of the Strava stuff is more of a competition about doing routes faster and that sort of thing, but this would be more of a friendly group where you can see what other people are doing and show, taking pictures along the way to the routes you can see, and highlight routes that you're taking and trips that you're taking, so other people can be encouraged to do that sort of thing as well, and highlighting that, and mainly to kind of put together a community, or to have an opportunity to provide a community or build that community of people, so they're aware of other people in the area, what they're doing, and possibly to communicate with that community a little bit easier if we can get it together. So starting a group, I think, would be great. I think that's a great start, and then start bringing people in. I don't know, I guess there's probably other barriers that people might have, or there may be concerns that people have. I don't know if anyone in the committee has any ideas. I don't think I guess I don't want it to be a competition thing to see, like, oh, I'm not walking as much as other people, more for people to see what other people are doing, and to get excited about that type of thing. So I don't know what other people's thoughts are on that, but that was my idea with it. We can keep it going, or we can cut it off here.
Yeah, I do know, sorry, maybe I'll just if I can jump in, Keenan.
Yeah.
On Strava, there are badges and trophies and that sort of thing, and they're not all related to athletic sort of achievement. There's, you know, how much can you walk in a month, commuting, those sorts of activities and badges. So, I mean, for what it's worth, those are little motivators if people are interested. But certainly to have the promotion, the focus being on active transportation and not on the athletic side necessarily. Of course, if people like that, they can get into it. You know, I think it's worth mentioning that there's a lot of athletes on Strava who don't use active transportation, who may, with a little nudge, be pushed towards using active transportation. A lot of people I ride with, you know, that's all they do is ride recreationally on their road bikes. But what about, you know, going to the corner store and commuting to work or whatever, that sort of thing. So there's a big opportunity there to nudge people who are already in Barrie on Strava as athletes, to encourage them to use active transportation. And as John said, you know, having some fun with it, being part of a Barrie group maybe, or a Barrie whatever club on Strava, a group on Strava, posting photos and seeing what routes are available to support active transportation, you know, but paved bike paths and that sorts of thing. There may be some benefit there. It's not a big effort. I certainly would be happy to set it up and manage it on the Strava side. We would just need some direction from this committee on how we do that, representing a Barrie group and, you know, doing it appropriately for however that needs to be set up. I don't know what the rules or regulations are around that from the city's perspective.
Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I'm not quite sure either. So, I mean, it might be fine just to sort of make it an activity of a subcommittee of this group, but I'll do some thinking about that. I see Laurel has her hand up, and then Kelly.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. I think it's been a while since I used Strava, but I think you can actually like join like it's like a commitment, right? Like you can join kind of like a goal, like I will bike whatever, you know, 10 kilometers this month or whatever. So and you can work together toward goals too. Is that true? I think you can do them individually or the club, each person
Possibly.
in the club.
As a club, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know, that I like the idea. I would certainly join something if it was available.
Okay.
Kelly? Oh, you're just on mute there.
Thank you. I liked Eric's comment about, I thought it was interesting that you've got athletes on the app who don't think that, you know, they can ride their bike to the store, or it's just not part of that mindset. So I think part of our goal, and perhaps as the committee moving forward, the new committee around education, this could potentially be a piece for that. So if one of our goals is to get people out of their cars, and I think the biggest wins, if I recall, was getting somebody to get on their bike and go to the corner store, as opposed to take their vehicles. So I'm not sure, you know, on Strava, I'm going to join it because I don't know anything about it. So I will definitely join if it's potentially that we could create a group or a club, Active Transportation Barrie Club, that would specifically promote mobility in a different way than car. And if a Strava app could do that, I think that would be really, really interesting to think about that.
Sure.
So, in just thinking about some of the comments earlier about, you know, transitional plan, and then looking at things like why would we do that, or what things are we missing, or maybe we're looking at our mandate and would education sort of be, you know, a piece that we can build on a little bit more. It sort of makes me feel like like we did try with this committee to establish a little bit of a work plan, and I don't want to make the committee sort of administrative heavy because that can be too cumbersome and limiting as well. But trying to find some balance with having, you know, the foresight to kind of look at and maybe evaluate where we've come and what pieces we might be missing and what is the framework under which we would sort of establish some goals. Because also Kelly's comment earlier about, you know, there are some certain people that maybe bring ideas forward and kind of get things underway with different events and more so than others. If we had a bit of a framework that establishes some sort of a comprehensive approach, like maybe the 6 E's or whatever, you know, around engineering, education, encouragement, you know, all those pieces, evaluation, equity. If we were to sort of categorize some key sort of goals, reflecting on where we've come and what we've done and where we might go as this committee progresses, that would then capture some key areas that we could then either establish working group or subcommittees or people with a sort of vested interest or expertise in that particular area, that we could then work towards something in a comprehensive way and tie that in with a bit of a budget, you know, like it's a bit of a plan with some objectives and goals and the rationale for it. I think that there would be a lot of value. It sort of tie everything together that sort of sits in loose ends at different times with the committee. So just thinking about wrapping all of those ideas together into sort of a broader plan without it being too cumbersome in terms of administrating that plan.
Very good points. And I've been making notes for that transition document furiously as you were talking there. So thank you. Any other points on this? I did have a thought that came up during the discussion around the city's website and how Barrie.ca is going through a revamp right now, and perhaps this is an opportunity for us to push further on getting some of this information on the city's website and have more interactive tools perhaps that people can engage with. So if you go to if you go to Barrie.ca, along the top there's a survey around what you would like to see with the website, and maybe as committee members, we can all take some time to go and do that and make some suggestions around active transportation initiatives specifically, but then also maybe advisory groups or advisory committees more broadly. And perhaps there's an opportunity through the website to address that issue we were talking about earlier around transition documents and how we work collaboratively as advisory committees. Perhaps there's an opportunity through the website update to facilitate that. So just wanted to point that out as an opportunity to help shape the city's website. Anything else on the Strava piece? Do we feel like we want to have Eric make a club and just get going? Like what I'm also not familiar with Strava, unfortunately, so should probably get that and learn a bit about it. So I'm not really sure what that looks like at this point, but
Keenan, I'm certainly willing, whatever the committee decides, to manage that on Strava. It's not difficult, and I'm pretty familiar with it.
I mean, it could be helpful just to start playing around with it and see how just even us as committee members can engage with that. And perhaps there's some good learning opportunities there that we can bring forward to the next committee around whether this is a good tool for us to use in the education and outreach part of our mandate.
Sure, kind of do a little pilot. That's easy enough.
Yeah, that would be great.
I think I could certainly see it being helpful. Like, you know, you kind of get stuck in riding the same routes often, even when you're like for recreational use too. Like, I think there could be a purpose for it in that aspect as well, even though it's not directly our mandate, but you can find new routes, and I think that could be fun for sure.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Laurel. And just a little sidebar to Strava, there's something called Wanderer.earth, I think it is. And it's really cool. It ties into Strava and it encourages you to wander, to ride on new roads, and it keeps track what percentage of Barrie and what percentage of Simcoe County roadways have you ridden on. So it becomes a little bit of a fun competition, even just to yourself, right? To try and get 100% of all the roads in Barrie, for example. Again, just encouraging people. So that would be part of what we could encourage, exactly what you're saying, Laurel.
That's cool. That's a cool concept. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that recreational cycling is a good gateway drug to active transportation in your everyday life.
Okay, so I'll set up a group. I'll sort of research that, figure it out, and then I'll use email for now to send that out to everyone here. Some people have Strava, some don't, but then you can decide if you wish to be part of the pilot, that you just sign up a free Strava account. There's no cost, and we can start doing a little bit of sharing and watching what others are doing within this group.
That's awesome. I think that's a great start. I really appreciate you doing that, bringing your Strava expertise to the table. Any other thoughts or questions on that piece before we move on? Oh, Sherry, go ahead.
And get my other hand up fast enough. I just thought maybe when you have a conversation on Thursday, I think it is, for the subcommittee meeting around Bike the Night, maybe it can be considered that if the Strava sort of pilot gets up and running, that anybody who comes to that event who has an interest in learning more about routes or joining a club to, for encouragement purposes or support, that we could sort of have those kinds of community resources and channels available to share with anybody who comes out to that event. It's a great engagement opportunity. And if people are ready to try that and ready to go to the next step, then let's have the resources available to them to sort of give to them and keep the momentum going. So Strava, if the pilot's up and running, would be a great opportunity to give that to people as a resource.
Excellent suggestion. John?
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. I think it works both ways too. I think we'll try, hopefully that Strava, if we can get it going, we can highlight the Bike the Night, and Bike the Night can highlight the Strava, and we'll pick up anyone in between then. Great, yeah.
Also maybe a good idea to show people that it's not that scary, like we can have the route on there, like you can kind of see the elevation and stuff too. So we could have the Bike the Night route on there beforehand maybe, and just so people know.
Great idea. John?
Thanks. And put Eric on the spot again here. I think, can you preemptively put something on there? I think you've done that before for other ones, right? Where you preemptively put something on saying, come to this event, here's the kind of route we're thinking of running. Is that how you do that?
Yeah, for sure. And again, I'm happy to manage this particular club. Once we set it up, you can do posts. So not just sharing your activities, which is typically what people do. They share their activities on the social platform, but you can do just a post. And that's exactly what you're saying, John. So I could do a post, say, hey, we're planning the Bike the Night event in September, blah, 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 and people can join. And when I post that, it goes to everyone on my network. Yeah, it would only go to everyone on my network. I make it public. I would make it a public so anybody else can see and share it if they come to my profile or one of my networked connections profiles. So yeah, it's a good way to spread the word for that sort of thing. Yes. And I'm happy to do that. I don't mind managing that at all. I already do it for the bike club and for myself. So
that's amazing. We appreciate that so much.
You're welcome.
It's like a good tool. Okay. Anything else on the Strava piece before we move on to the last item on the agenda? Not seeing anything. Awesome. Great discussion. Okay, last item is future City of Barrie events, active transportation. Now, Kelly, did this come from your experience applying to the city for the special event permit? Were there some maybe things to highlight that
What was
might
the event?
change.
Sorry, what was the agenda item?
It's
Kenny?
Future of City of Barrie Events Active Transportation. And I didn't have anywhere in my notes or my email someone who had actually requested to put this on. So I don't.
It's me. So.
Okay, I thought maybe
Yeah.
there were some points from that application process. That,
well,
yeah,
yeah it's yeah. So I think it was just a little disjointed, just because, you know, if you could look at it strategically and say, well, if that's part of the future mandate of this committee is to host events, then this seems to me like this would be the first event that is that correct? Am I correct that this committee, this is the first event they've ever hosted? Or
yeah, the old working group probably did, and Sherry probably has the background information on that.
Yeah, we did have a couple of events in the past with the working group, but we didn't have a formalized mandate. So we had more flexibility to sort of just pick up and do whatever. But yeah, we had Car Free Sunday event. We had t-shirts done. We had the big bike from the, come out, big red bike and all that. So yeah, we have had them.
And did you have to fill out an event application and get insurance and all that?
I think Wendy Lovenmark completed the permit
right.
Because there was also like a road closure for a portion of it. So yeah, there were quite a few pieces that had to have been done, but city staff took care of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're doing that now, right? So so perhaps that is a point, Keenan, that, you know, if a committee is going to host an event like this one, we could use some help filling out forms and making sure we have all our I's dotted and our T's crossed, perhaps, you know, as opposed to being directed to fill out a form if it is a city event. And I don't want to burden staff either. I do want to keep that in mind as well. And I was, you know, quite happy to complete the form, but there are several pieces that we need to work on as our subcommittee that are missing. So bigger pieces. So that's all. So if we could have some guidance, maybe that was the point on the agenda, perhaps.
Yeah, and maybe there are some other advisory committees that have organized events that have some advice on what that could look like, and perhaps we can. Yeah. I can reach out to the clerk's office and see if there's anything on that. I see Justin McDonald just raised his hand. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that piece. Hey, Justin, welcome.
Hi, thanks everyone. I believe, I don't know if it's still on, it's been a bit since I've sat on it, but through Culture, they have a kind of a monthly meeting where they're with police and ROA and bylaw, more related to like planning Camp and Fest and your bigger events downtown, but they may have some kind of standard operating procedures to kind of help we could piggyback off of. So Aaron Donnelly through Culture and Lindsay, I'm bad with names, but the two Culture would probably be the best to see if there's any forms or anything to kind of pull from that. But just from my experience, there is a bit of a working group with regards to that for the larger events. So
thanks, Justin. That's really helpful. And that's also probably a good thing for us to include in the transition document is, you know, have maybe suggest to the new term of the committee that they have a conversation early on in their term with Aaron Donnelly and whoever at the city who's responsible for events, and sort of plan that out right from the start and build that relationship right from the beginning, because that's certainly something missing at this point. I also think you know, if we get to the point where we have an active transportation coordinator position, then that would be very helpful for these types of things, where there's an actual dedicated staff member to help us move those things through the process. So perhaps we'll include that in the transition document to keep pushing for that piece as part of the Cycle Barrie infrastructure project. Brandy, do you remember if there was anything else on this agenda item or where it actually came from? Because I'm I can't recall.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't remember. I normally have my emails and stuff like that of who asked for what, but unfortunately, not being at the office, I don't. However, I cannot remember who asked and for what reason, but it was an item that was specifically requested.
That's all right. I think we've had a good discussion anyway, and perhaps we can leave it as a standing item for now, just in case. So we'll put it on the next agenda, just in case it was one of the members who's absent today who wanted to talk about it. Anything else on the events piece before we get to the end of the meeting? Not seeing anything on that. Anything in general? Oh, Eric, did you have something on the events or just in general?
No, just in general. And I'm not sure, I want to be careful I'm not just whining. The agenda item I had a while back about yield signs in that Painswick neighborhood. I was wondering what follow-up was done by the city, or was it just they realized, like I raised the issue that those exist, and it was just like they immediately just said, oh, we got to change that, and it's now being changed, I understand, to stop signs. And it may be a missed opportunity, and that's why I'm raising it, because if those yield signs have been in place for, who knows, decades possibly, and they've been successfully in place, and this is where I think there was some action items that would have possibly been useful, is to look at the data, what accidents have occurred, what complaints have been accumulated over time, and if those don't exist at high frequency, then yield signs maybe are an option in those types of neighborhoods, that we should, spread that, perpetuate that. I realize that's kind of a big goal, and there's all sorts of, John will be able to relate to, I'm sure there's all sorts of planning criteria that just goes against that. But if it works, maybe think out of the box a bit. Maybe we should be looking at this and trying it in other areas, because it's not just beneficial to people, especially on bicycles. You can do a what do they call it? An Oklahoma stop, I forget now. Anyway, you can roll through the stop, but it's beneficial from an emissions point of view, a noise pollution point of view. There's lots of benefits to that type of intersection control. And I don't know if that has been investigated the way maybe it should be. There's an opportunity that's being missed. That's my thought. And again, if it's pie in the sky and we can let it go, I can let it go, but I want to make sure the city's done something to look into that. And is it a real opportunity?
No, I think that's a fair question to ask. And was it Brett Graytrix who we discussed that with? That was the staff person who...
Last meeting, I asked just for an update because I had missed the meeting before. And he said, unfortunately, my worst case scenario that I had projected when I raised the issue was happening. And that is that they were planning, I think I heard that right. Is that what other people understood? They're planning to update those signs to, I think, probably four-way stops from what I heard.
Yeah, that sounds right. I'm not fully remembering, but I think it's fair of us to ask for a more formal update on that, and we can ask those questions around data, and if there was any consideration given to alternatives to just changing it wholesale.
Yeah, and I want to be realistic, right? Like, there's no sense chasing that data if the way, I'm not really familiar with how the city plans traffic and what the master plan, how that all affects it, and what criteria go into that. If this is like a minnow swimming upstream, then maybe it's not worth doing, even to chase the data. I don't want to waste people's time. However, if there's some possibility that we can meaningfully assess that and implement that as an alternative within our city, then maybe we should be looking at it. Again, just a little bit of outside the box thinking is kind of where my head is at. And I don't know if anyone here who has more experience with city procedure and protocol can comment on that. Again, I don't want to waste people's time.
I think, Eric, a good starting point for this would be if you want to send me an email, I can connect with either Brett or the director, or someone in engineering, someone in operations, and we can get that information and see what's available in advance of the next meeting. And then if there's need for a larger discussion, we can do that. But maybe we can start answering some of those questions through an email exchange, if that works for you.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Thank you for that. Okay. I appreciate it.
No,
I will send you an email.
Thanks for staying on top of it. That's great. Okay, I see Sherry's hand up next.
Thank you. Just your question about events. I'm wondering where things landed with our discussion many months ago about encouraging active transportation as a criteria for city-wide events. It was many months ago. We talked a little bit about that, and I don't know where that landed. So as part of, like, we talked earlier about event permits and things like that, is there something in place at this present time for city-wide events where active transportation is criteria that they're encouraged to use active transportation to participate in the event?
I think you just solved the mystery of that agenda item, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that might have been the intention of that agenda item, was to have that discussion with someone like Aaron Donnelly, and it must have just gotten lost in the shuffle that that's what that was actually about.
Okay. Great.
So I think that was the intention, was that we invite someone from the city's culture and recreation department, the events section, to talk about that and how we can help them encourage active transportation for all city events. So mystery solved. Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
So we want. Great. So Brandy, if we can invite Aaron Donnelly to the next meeting of this committee for the City of Barrie events encouraging active transportation, then we just want to have a discussion with her department about what is it they're already doing to encourage active transportation, if anything, and like how can we help them do that, because it's an opportunity to reach people. Does that work?
Yeah, I'll send off an email this week, and we'll see if we can get them booked in for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you so
much. Get all that answered.
Yeah. As you were talking, Sherry was like, "Oh my gosh, that's it." Okay. Anything else, Sherry? Did that cover what you talked about?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Kelly.
Thank you. I had emailed an agenda item, and I don't think it got on, Brandy, but that's fine. It was about invasive species, and I wanted to, I think it was, I had 3 or 4 points on it. So going to the sustainability side of our committee, I had some questions from some citizens around reporting and handling of, so I wanted to get like an update or a report on how we handle the reporting and reporting back to people, and how we actually handle the specific invasive species and in our city, and an updated list on what they are and how we handle them. So because there was a bit of a vacuum for people reporting the actual invasive species location, and nothing was done. And so I just wanted to find out from a process and how we're doing that, just to give our citizens an update on how it's handled, and to be sure that when they do put a complaint in, or a notification of where they're seeing these, how they're being handled, and what the process is. If we could maybe put that on the next agenda, if possible.
Definitely. I apologize, Kelly. I think that was my bad for not flagging that. We can put you at the top of the agenda for next time. And Brandy, I guess probably we would want to invite, well, Kevin's usually here. Parks Operations, I guess, is probably who would be best to talk about what we do with invasive species and what that process looks like. Okay. And I did find that email, Kelly. So
No worries.
thank you.
All good. It was a very full agenda today.
Okay. Eric, did you have something else to add, or is that your old hand? Okay. Go ahead, John.
Thanks. So sorry, one part was just back to Eric's comment there. So I'm not, I guess we'll leave it to Brett to make the comment on it. Obviously, my only concern is that if it's a provincial standard on where stop signs go versus yield signs, it becomes a bit of a challenge. Not a challenge, but I think in my experience, municipalities are less likely to step outside of provincial standards. I think, whether it's true or not, because of liability reasons. And so anyway, I'll leave it to Brett, but I think there is some variation on site distances, site triangles and stuff when you get into yield sign versus stop signs. But just on the same item, I have heard of some places, maybe California, I can't think where exactly it was off the top of my head, where they have changed the legislation so bikes don't need to stop at stop signs, which is an interesting variation on this, where you don't have to stop because the bike's going slow enough, they can stop faster than the car. So why does it have to have the same criteria as a car?
That's the Idaho stop.
Is that what it is? Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So I think, and again, that's another requirement for the Highway Traffic Act and that sort of thing. So you get into bigger, it takes quite a bit to change. I know they were really happy they were able to change that, but certainly on board with making that move. But I think it has to be at a higher level. But I'm happy to hear what Brett's got to say about it and kind of keep pushing forward with having this vision. Because I think saying immediately no, that can't be done is a big reason why we're in the space we are for a lot of other transportation items. So I think we have to, like you said, open your mind to different options.
Yeah, thanks, John.
And then I had something on a separate end. If there's anything other topic on this, go ahead. But okay, so the only other one I just wanted to give you a quick update on was the active school travel. I met with Sherry last week or maybe 2 weeks ago now, which is great. I appreciate that, Sherry. And I just wanted to mention that I met with Terry Fox Elementary School this past week, just yesterday actually, to try to push that thing again. And so we're still moving through that, trying to find the best way to get everyone excited about it and keep it going. But we're going through the schools, and we haven't had a lot of push on actually moving forward with it, but hopefully we can get through them, and maybe it's something we continue on with the next mandate. But I just wanted to kind of keep everyone informed that we are moving through with that. And if anyone's got any other ideas on schools that want to have it done, I'm happy to do that presentation. And I have reached out to the school board to see if we're a vendor of record. Might be one of the reasons why we're getting held back on going in with the parent council group. So I reached out to the school board about either getting that clarified so we can pass it on to the principals to say that we are a vendor of record, or I can act as a vendor of record going through in those presentations. So maybe that's a barrier, and we'll see how that goes.
Sherry, did you have something to add on that piece?
Just with respect to active school travel and John's offer for a presentation, and thank you for that update, John. I think a future agenda, I would like to include active school travel as a topic of discussion, so that John can report on what he's doing, but also I can report on our health unit initiative around On the Move, and where things have landed with that initiative coming out of COVID, pre-COVID, and now where we're kind of trying to reinvigorate that initiative, and potentially the steering committee, which is a regional steering committee, whereby there may be interest in some of the members from this committee in participating in that steering committee. So if there's room on the next agenda or a subsequent agenda, if we can include active school travel updates. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, anything else before we adjourn? Not seeing anything else. This committee has perfect timing. We end at noon on the dot a weird amount of times. Wish city council was more like that. Anything else? Brandy, did you have anything to say to committee members before we go?
No. Okay. No, I was taking notes, so I do have those agenda items listed here.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, and we hope everyone feels better. Everyone who's not doing so hot these days, and wish everyone well, and feel free to reach out for the next meeting. I'll get that transition document together and circulated to the committee for comments. Don't forget to go to barrie.ca to fill out that survey if you have time, or on the city's website. And yeah, I'll see all of you next meeting. And I appreciate your time so much, and thanks so much to the staff too, who take the time to be on this call and bring their expertise to the table. Okay, with that, we will adjourn.
Thank you.
Bye.